I firmly believe that the 49ers are already building their way back to the big game. And in order to do that, we're going to need more things like what we got today in the media. Obviously, around the Super Bowl, lots of people being interviewed, lots of great stuff coming out, and everybody is clearly sleeping on the 49ers, and they'll be found out very soon in this video. I'm going to tell you about some revelations as to why they're going to be found out. If you're looking for daily 49ers content, hit subscribe so you don't miss out. But Fred Warner just revealed that his most current thoughts on Brock Purdy, or excuse me, what his most current thoughts are on Brock Purdy, as well as a couple of other things. So hint, hint, stick around for that. In recent media engagements over the last couple of days, Fred Warner's been saying a lot, and I am absolutely eating it up. And I think you will too. Even if you haven't heard all of this, I think it's all good. If you have heard some of it, there's still some really interesting conversation to have around what Fred Warner is saying about our QB1, Brock Purdy. Now, let's start with what he said to Diana Rossini first, and then we're going to get to Pat McAfee and some things that Diana Rossini said and some things that George Kittle said. It's going to be wild, and I'm excited to get into it. This is a really fun time as we're starting to gear up and really focus on 2025. Here's what Fred Warner said about his quarterback, Brock Purdy.
Well, I mean, the thing is like if you truly watch the tape, and you watch all the other elite quarterbacks in this league, they all have a common thread amongst all of them in the fact that they're able to process the game at such a high level, being able to create plays with their feet, make the high-level throws up and down the field. Brock Purdy does all these things, and he was in the MVP conversation a year ago. Like, let's not forget that. He took us to a Super Bowl, and he gave us the lead before, obviously, Patrick Mahomes and them took it away from us in that Super Bowl, right? So this is the guy. Like, there's no question. Everybody out there, if you have any questions about Brock Purdy, I'm here to tell you, I'm not biased. I know ball. He's the guy.
Okay, now this is exciting, okay? I know that you will want to be like, oh, this is just, here we go again. Another player saying nice things about their quarterback. We've seen it before. And you're right. We have seen it before with a lot of quarterbacks because players have their guys' backs. But I'm here to tell you that if you listen to this again with a careful, critical eye, careful, critical ear, that should be a thing if it's not. I think that you will catch that this is not Fred Warner just being a good teammate, saying nice things about his buddies. This is Fred Warner genuinely believing as a football player and as a guy who knows the game that he genuinely believes Brock Purdy's a great quarterback. And I want you to hear, I'm just going to play this little section here real quick again. I want you to hear how he describes Brock Purdy, because there is a general he's my quarterback, he's great, he's Mr. Irrelevant, yada, yada, yada. That's fine. But the way he described him is this. Listen to this.
Well, I mean, the thing is like if you truly watch the tape and you watch all the other elite quarterbacks in this league, they all...
Let's pause. If you truly watch the tape, what does that tell you? That tells me that Fred Warner is pleading his case like many of us have so many times on Brock Purdy's behalf. Then what does he say next?
Have a common thread amongst all of them in the fact that they're able to process the game.
They're able to process the game. Things that we've talked about with Brock Purdy a million times.
Such a high level, being able to create plays with their feet.
Create plays with their feet. Something that Brock Purdy's been working on significantly this season. We've seen a lot more of it. And we saw it in the playoffs last season be immensely powerful.
Make the high-level throws up and down the field. Brock Purdy does.
Make the high-level throws up and down the field. So listen, you've got things, not all the things, but you've got some things that you know that you need in a quarterback. And right there, Fred Warner is listing those off, and he's going through his paces to make sure that you believe him. He's trying to convince you of it, which is different. That's just different than a guy being nice about his teammate. That's just different than a guy just saying, oh, yeah, he's a top 5 quarterback for sure. We have the best quarterback in the league. We've heard guys say things like that about Brock Purdy. This is real. This is real. I genuinely believe that, okay? Now, here's what this is what he said on Pat McAfee's show, okay? This is interesting as well. So give this a listen.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who listens to me knows that I love Brock Purdy. I love everything about him, the way that he's made up, the player that he is, his story. I mean, that's my thing is, like, how can you hate on a guy when he has the story that he's had and the success that he's brought to our team as Mr. Irrelevant, last pick in the draft, right? Like,
Side note, if you were going to make a claim that he was just being a good teammate, that's the kind of argument you would make. You would say, see how he's just like, yeah, he's Mr. Irrelevant, good story. That's the kind of stuff, like, I would be fine with that. But let him continue.
I don't know of anybody else who's been the last pick in the draft and has been a starter, even a starter for a football team, nonetheless a franchise quarterback. You know what I'm saying? And he took a huge leap this year in leadership. I think just being in command of not only the offense, but the team as well.
Okay, he took a huge leap in leadership, being in command of not just the offense, but the team as well. That's Brock Purdy. That's last pick in the draft, Mr. Irrelevant Brock Purdy, who's going out there and has taken leaps in growth during a horrible season. Taking leaps in growth as a leader. That is something like do not underrate that. Don't undersell that. Don't click off this video because you're like, oh, here we go again. Another Brock Purdy apologist. I'm serious, guys. Like, this is something worth paying attention to, because when the rubber meets the road, sometimes you find out who guys are. And Brock Purdy was not perfect this season, and he made himself several big mistakes, deep balls in situations he should not have been throwing them, in coverages he should not have been throwing them against, and they ended up picks, and two of them cost us the game potentially. And I think it would be fair to call him out on that, and he owns those things. So to hear from the locker room that he continued to grow in leadership this year, taking leaps forward as a leader, that's pretty interesting. Now, I want to get to what Diana Rossini said, and then we're going to get to what George Kittle said as well, which has something to do with what we're talking about here. But let's go to Diana Rossini real quick, related to, the cost of the quarterback and really what I think you need to pay attention to, not so much the AAV, but I think pay attention to how she describes his demeanor as a quarterback, okay? So quarterback Brock Purdy could end up getting a contract from the 49ers that pays him between $55 to $60 million per season, according to Diana Rossini. Yes, I think that's going to be the number that they wind up sitting at. Let's make it clear, though, I don't think Brock Purdy's sitting there going, I'm demanding I want to be the highest paid quarterback. I think he just wants to be paid what he's worth and continue to try and improve it and get them to a Super Bowl. And I want to, just for a New York minute here, celebrate something really special about this, okay? Because I will agree with you, Diana Rossini. That's how I imagine Brock Purdy's handling it too. But there's something really cool here, okay? And it's the reality that Brock Purdy probably could be talking for top dollar because of dumbos like Dak Prescott and Tua Tagovailoa and not Jaden Daniels. Oh my goodness. Jacksonville Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence. These guys who are out there getting crazy contracts, getting crazy money, who are not showing or proving to be the best quarterback in the league, then it makes it possible for an agent for a guy like Brock Purdy, who just a little bit ago was in the Super Bowl, to say, hold up now. This dude this is something special. You do not run from this guy. He is a talent. Look at how good he's been. Look how he's continuing to grow as a leader, yada, yada, yada. You can build a pretty strong case on Brock Purdy purely just based on the craziness of the market, just based on how bad some of these decisions have been. So, yes, I would agree. Brock Purdy's not a top 5 quarterback in the league right now. And I would agree that we shouldn't pay him, to be the most expensive quarterback in the league or whatever, because I agree where the 49ers would want this number to be at. However, I also completely get where the agents are coming from on this. It makes perfect sense to me. Related to the topic, George Kittle. I had to throw this in the last minute because I came across this later. Said Brock Purdy was very vocal, giving a lot of, I need you to be on your stuff for us to win, just rounding out that whole idea of Brock Purdy's leadership this season and how he stepped up this season. I'm excited for the guy. I'm excited for the future and for what's going to happen. Fred Warner, by the way, also from Chris Sims here, saying, we kept thinking this is the game we were going to get back on track, but the moment never came, just an odd year. And this is where I want you to comment. I would really love to know your take on this, 49ers fans. Faithful, tell me this. Why do you think the 49ers players kept going into a game thinking this is going to be the one, and it never was. What was the main reason for that in your mind? Because I have an answer to that question. I think that the answer has to do with coaching. I think if you could look back at last season, and you could get mad about a lot of things. You could you can get mad at vanilla coverages. You could get mad at when we didn't try to do new things and we just kept doing the same thing over and over despite the fact that it wasn't working. And you could do all of those things, but I think the biggest potentially the biggest problem with Nick Sorensen was this right here. These players are getting ready. We saw Fred Warner in pregame over and over and over trying to hype everybody up and trying to figure it out himself just in mentality, and mentality can't get you there alone. The team as a whole did not play the way that they should, and I think that's on the coaches. I think you hold Nick Sorensen responsible for the defense as a whole not playing up to snuff. I still believe Devondre Campbell could have been a significantly better player this season. I was really high on him coming in from Green Bay, fixing some of his wrongs because he did have a great season just a few years ago. And I was wrong about Devondre Campbell. I'm not trying to act like he would have been amazing if he had a different coach or whatever, but I definitely think he would have been more productive, and I definitely think the 49ers defense could have looked better under better leadership, and I just don't think Nick Sorensen was it. That's where I hold the responsibility on the defensive side of the ball. Special teams was also terrible, of course, so, not going to just not mention that. Probably should. But where do you think the issue lies from this season when you look back and you're like, man, what was the deal? What was up with players like Fred Warner thinking every week, this is the one, this is our week, and then it just never happening? I would love to know what you think on that one in the comments. Appreciate you. Hey, 77 days until the 2025 NFL draft. And in between now and then, we've got all sorts of big moves to be made in free agency, lots to cover. So make sure you're subscribed and like the video if you're still watching, because if you're still watching, you must at least enjoy some of this conversation. So please hit that like button. I would very much appreciate it. Thank you so much. I hope you have a fantastic evening.